CalmWaves Podcast. I'm Dallas Cowan, and I'm here joined by JJ Schwarz. And I'm excited about this podcast. I say this every podcast because I am always excited about the people I get to talk with and meet. But I'm excited to talk about JJ today because we met. You DM'd me on Instagram because you were interested in what we were doing, which is awesome, which I love. And then I got to find out more about your story and who you are and what you're building. And that just got me more excited about just our conversations back and forth. We've had a couple conversations over Zoom, which has been, super fun. But you've had a really exciting 2 weeks, I would say 2 or 3 weeks. You've graduated, you've opened a business, and you've had a baby.
First baby.
So all within 3 weeks. So you have been probably a little tired, probably a little, you've probably had some things, but you've had some accomplishments. I mean, these are huge accomplishments. Like you doing this in the last 3 years of your life would have been exciting. 3 months would have been a little, tight, but last 3 weeks.
Let's make it tighter.
3 weeks. 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure too. I think 2 of those things happened within like days of each other.
They did.
So how are you doing? How are you doing? How has this been? Tell me a little bit about the last 3 weeks of your life.
Well, thanks for asking. First of all, I'm doing great. I'm a little tired, but my wife is a champ. She's been doing a bulk of the lifting with the feeding and the pumping and all that. So huge shout outs to her. Obviously couldn't do it without her help. But yeah, it's been exciting. I think one of the things that's helped me or helped us navigate this process of these giant life transitions is just the lifestyle that we lived in baseball and professional baseball, where at the drop of a hat, you need to be in a new city or with a new team or, whatever it might be. So we really quickly learned how to just go with the flow and surrender to the outcomes and just be present with each other and enjoy our day and be grateful for what it is. So now as I'm done with baseball and we're getting into these really big life transitions, like graduating, starting a business, having a kid, it's kind of been seamless because we've been practicing surrendering for so long.
That is awesome. And going back to, your baseball side of things, you've had a pretty amazing, with your college career. I mean, you had a game where you hit 4 home runs. You were the freshman player of the year for, I think, Baseball America. And that's unbelievable of what you were able to do in college. And again, playing professional baseball as well. That is such a grind. I mean, we've interviewed baseball players before and talked baseball before, and it's such a hard just routine of, jumping from here to there. So it's really interesting that you've applied, hey, the 3 weeks of us, having all these, a kid and, starting a business, graduating, it's it's part of the flow. It's part of where it's gone. I want to go back to a little bit of, you've now transitioned into being a mental performance coach. That's what you graduated with. That's what you're pursuing. That's what you're doing. Take me back to a little bit of your story. I want to kind of do the your story, who you are, how you got here today. I really want to find out who is JJ? How did you get, from, hitting those 4 home runs, you being player of the year, and then, where you're at today.
Okay. Well, let's go all the way back. We'll see if we can hit every box on the way.
Okay.
So it started, my dad played in the MLB. He played for 1.5 years with the Chicago White Sox. He was a pitcher. He ended up hurting his elbow, stopped playing when I was super young, but then got into coaching. So he's been a coach for the last 30 years. I had the academic background, and those two things meshed together. The message was, get your work done, try your best. We don't care what you do as long as you want to be the best and you act like it. So for me, that was obviously baseball. And growing up, I loved playing baseball, of course, and going to the field with my dad. And I became really good really quickly. And I think from the second I played baseball, I was good. And that was the enjoyable part of it. So I never faced any adversity, and not too many kids do face adversity when it comes to youth sports. So I grew up, went to high school, committed to the University of Florida as a sophomore. Again, no real adversity, nothing really testing me. My senior year of high school, I joined the USA baseball team and we go to Taiwan and we win the gold medal. So I'm on high. I'm thinking, okay, I get into college. This is going to be a breeze. Let's see where the MLB draft takes me as a senior. It didn't work out in my favor, so I ended up going to school. And my sister was already enrolled there. She was playing softball on the University of Florida softball team, where they won. I got to shout her out. They won 2 back-to-back national championships for softball. So that was when I was a senior and then as a freshman. And so I get to campus as a freshman, and again, I've never had any adversity. There's things that are not even registering in my mind. I'm almost oblivious to the fact of how hard baseball actually is. And I think I just rode that wave my freshman year and took advantage of it. And I look back on it, I'm playing out of my mind, and I think it was a blessing and a curse at the same time. And I say that because, yeah, it was great. My stats were really great, but it was also a curse because the rest of my career, the 8 years following that, all I wanted to do was go back to that kid. I wanted to be that guy that performed and got validated from other people and won all these awards, freshman of the year, all that stuff. And I thought that was really cool. And it turned into this process of learning about myself and kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, is just surrendering to the kind of player I was now and not trying to recreate the past, not trying to plan ahead for the future and just being okay with where I was at now. Not okay. I shouldn't say okay because I would never be okay with it, but just accepting of it, I should say. And so I go through college. I finally get my first taste of adversity. I end up tearing my left labrum in the college season. I'm not able to play summer ball in the Cape because I can't lift my arm up. It's about to be my junior year. And so I don't want to miss a year and get surgery because I need to get drafted. So I decided to play through it and I end up playing terribly because, again, I can barely lift my arm. And I look back on that and there's a small part of me that's like, you know what, you should have just got the surgery and not try to play through it and all of these things. But then also at the same time, I didn't get drafted the way I wanted to. So I came back my senior year in college and I ended up meeting my wife, who we just had our first baby. So if that injury doesn't happen, I don't come back for my senior year. I don't meet her. I don't have my daughter, Ellie. So I look back at all these things and I look at how I had to surrender to that moment. And it reminds me that there is a blessing on the other side always. So whenever I find myself getting too far ahead of myself or wishing things are going to go a certain way or wishing things did go a certain way, I always try to bring myself back to that lesson that I learned my junior year and just, there's going to be something that good that comes out of it. I just have to look for it and I got to get my gratefulness goggles on, be grateful for what I have, and I'll start finding things to be grateful for. So that was my college process. And then after my senior year, I get drafted by the A's in the 8th round. And I thought I was in a great landing spot. And I get there and it's so much harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought, okay, I've been playing in the SEC, been dominating. These guys are very talented. I go to pro ball and it's, so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And I get exposed again and my shoulder starts hurting again. And I end up having to get another surgery on that same shoulder. I just learned so much in pro ball because it was testing me in so many different ways that I've never been tested before. And it truthfully took me too long to figure out how to get past that. But in the end, I did. And that's what got me into this new field now is learning how to refine my mind and refine my approach and my mindset and use it in a way that was advantageous for me on the field. And I saw how helpful that was for me and the benefits that that gave me, not just on the field, but off the field as well. And towards the end of my career, I just realized like, this is what I want to do. And being a catcher, I was brought up that you need to be of service to everybody on your team. It's not about the catcher, just like in football. It's not about the O line, but you can't win if you have a bad O line. Nobody gives the O line credit. Nobody gives the catcher the credit. So being of service, I started realizing that serving other people, having these deep conversations with people in the dugout and in the clubhouse, that was what was filling my cup. And if I was getting all these hits, which wasn't happening all the time anymore in pro ball, but it wasn't fulfilling me in a way that I wanted it to. having these conversations and meeting people and growing our relationships with God together. Like that was what was meaningful to me. And that's what kind of pushed me into this career path. So once I retired from professional baseball, I enrolled at Barry University and got my master's degree in sports psychology. Just finished that up a couple weeks ago. And here I am, wife, kid, master's degree, and business. And here we are.
That's awesome. I mean, adversity is such a hard thing, and two, you missed that you won a national championship too in
I
college
did.
too. So I mean, you're at the highs of where you were at, and it's interesting that you talk about like being like something coming easy and going, okay, what do you do with somebody who like everything comes because it's not a bad thing for you being successful going to Taiwan with winning a gold medal, like hitting 4 home runs in a game, like winning that like those aren't bad things. Those are what you worked towards. And so it's interesting that you see that as like, oh, that was hard on me later in life. What would be if something if you could go back to that person that where you were at that high kind of thing, what would you coach them with? If you could coach yourself, you've got a kid who's like, hey, I got it not all figured out, but it's like you've seen him be successful all the time at every step. How do you coach somebody like that? What would you tell yourself that would have been helpful for you, like going through the injury and all those types of things?
I think the only thing I knew at the time is, well, first of all, I didn't know anything about the mental game when I was in college. This was all sprung on me when I got to pro ball. So I think having a foundation of maybe professionals or coaches or just people in my corner that were reminding me of how important it is to take care of my mind, I think would have been a great step for me because I was oblivious to it. I'm just thinking like I'm the only one going through what I'm going through and feeling the way that I'm feeling when in reality it was not the case. So it was isolating for me, but also on the same side of things, all I knew was my swing. All I knew was mechanics. I didn't know any other facet of the game besides the physical realm of it. So I think what actually did me like the most disadvantageous for my game was going back and watching my swings as a freshman and saying, okay, this was my swing when I was really good. This is my swing now. Let me overlay these and see where I can find these differences. And I think that created this fix mentality for me where it was in this cycle. So bad game, okay, I need to get into the cages and swing more. Okay, bad game. I need to watch more video and figure out how I could go hit 4 home runs again. And, I add these pieces up together and I was taking more swings than I had in my entire life because I wanted to be that guy again. And it was no surprise that my shoulder gave out at the end of the season. So I see those things kind of escalating into each other. And I almost just wish I had somebody to like shape me and be like, you're still JJ Schwarz. Like, you don't have to be this guy. You can be who you are right this second. And that's okay with me. And like your friends, your family, your God, they love you exactly how you are. You don't need to be him or you don't need to be this future version of yourself that you want to be. You can be okay with where you're at right this second. I think that would have been super helpful for me. And it's not putting blame on other people because like this is a new trend, I would say, is like caring about your mind and caring about your mindset. And it's becoming more and more of a public topic, I should say. And I don't know. I just wish I had a little bit more resources on that side of things when I played.
That's super fascinating because I think, you think of mental health today, people and we've talked about this before too, and it's like, mental health is people talk about it a lot, but not a lot of people bring solutions to the table. Like it's like, oh yeah, it's really good to take care of your mind. And it's kind of like, all right, now what? Like
Right.
who do you
Mental
go
health
to?
awareness. And
What do
that's
you
it.
do? Like, hey, maybe you can do some this, but it's like that routine. And I think what you're building out too is going, hey, how do I bring this to kids? How do I bring that rhythm, that foundation? I think what you said is so important because you're gonna hit a bad game or a bad month or a bad year. How do you have that foundation already built
Hmm.
so that you can, get through that. I heard a story from who was it? I think it's from my dad. My dad talked about this and, talking about, faith and, having a, a firm foundation on a lot of different things. And he said, Somebody holding a cup of tea, you know, when you get hit by something, what spills out? Tea. Like whatever's in your cup is gonna come out. So it doesn't matter if you are, so what's in your cup, basically? What are you filled with? It's not if you're gonna get hit, it's when you're gonna get hit. So he was talking, actually, the story was talking about Mary when she was told that she was going to have Jesus. And it's like, what came out of her? And it was this praise. It was this. So I think that's, it's the whole thing of Mike Tyson, too. You could take to Mike Tyson. Everyone's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. Like
Exactly.
all of those types of things. And I think it is, interesting your story of you went back to, okay, when I'm stressed, I went back to the tape. I went back to where's my swing that I need to bring back, or bring in. And we talk about too is mental performance is a big thing about being present. Like if you're present, that's where you can play your best. That's peak performance. Is I am present. I'm not worried about the future. I'm not thinking about the past. I am present. See ball, hit ball. Like that is where you need. That's where peak performance is. But it's really hard to get there.
It
Like
is.
you have to work at that. You don't just show up to the field and go, "Yep, I'm present." Like there's so many things around you to get to that point. So what are you doing? Like, I want to ask this question. How has your faith changed from this point? I know in college for me, my faith changed very much, going from, being, freshman in college to where I am now, or freshman college, we're end of college and everything like that. You're just trying to figure out life,
Mhm.
So you being in that moment, and you're talking about, the goodness of God through adversity, you meet your wife. By the way, my wife's name is Ellie. So we'll talk about that later, but
Beautiful.
yes,
Beautiful name.
beautiful name. Love the name. Love the name. Perfect name. And so like, how did that shape? Where have you, if you look back now, of how your faith has changed?
It's changed so radically over the years, and I think about where it started, and my mom was brought up in a very religious household, so I always knew about church. And my best friend in middle school, his parents were also very religious, so they had us hanging out at church often. So I went on my first mission trip when I was 12, so in middle school with my best friend, and it was life changing for me and for him. And it kind of opened our eyes to see, like, okay, this is like a real thing that is changing lives and can change my life. So it made us very aware of the fact that we need to be leaning on this aspect of our life. And like, I remember having like these same thoughts when I was 12, just being like, wow, this is so powerful for me. And like, what can this can do for me? And to be completely honest, there was a part of me that was saying, okay, if I pour more into my relationship with God, he'll help me play better baseball. And I probably thought that was the case because I mentioned like I was never bad at baseball for the longest time. So I always thought like thanks God, you've made me so good at baseball. I can't wait to make it to the MLB one day because I'm so close to you and I love you so much. And that was probably the case when I was a freshman too, is there wasn't too much adversity going on in my life. And I was like, let's just keep this up. Like, God, I love you so much. You're gonna lead me to the major leagues. And then when I get to the major leagues, I'll be happy and I'll start glorifying you. And now adversity is coming and I'm struggling and I'm getting injured and I'm feeling discouraged. And I'm so lucky that I have my mom point me in the right direction and guide me and be like, you're running to X, Y, and Z. You need to be running back to the word and you need to be running back to God. And I think that was huge for me to learn when things aren't going the way you want them to, which is usually always in life because we always have our predetermined plan and God has his plan for us. But when there's some misalignment, there is you need to be running back to God and talking to him about this. And I think that was something I learned that was probably the most important lesson I learned through all of my sports career is run back to God. Don't rely on yourself to get yourself through this. Run to God and talk to him and he'll help you through it. And so my sophomore year and my junior year, they were very hard on me mentally and emotionally. And I think it just continued to strengthen my spirit. And, strengthening your spirit's not such a beautiful process and it can be ugly at times. And I think the worst of it was after my junior year. I mean, really being at the high of my entire life, winning a national championship as a junior. And then a couple weeks later is like they have the draft and I'm not getting drafted. And now the best day of my life has turned into the worst day of my life so quickly. And again, I'm so thankful I have my mom there to just be like, you don't know what God's doing through you. You don't know how the situation is going to turn. Like you just need to rely on him and have faith. And again, that's how I met my wife going into my senior year. So I think that moment was a reminder to just keep running to him in everything that I had, good or bad. And so I get to pro ball, and again, it's not easy, and I'm facing all this adversity. And it was almost like a trial ground for me to continue to strengthen and reinforce my faith. And I think by the time I ended pro ball, like I knew how I needed to talk to God. I knew how I needed to prayer that was good for me. I got comfortable speaking about God to other people. And now I'm in this new practice and like I have some mentors that are like, don't be so faith forward in your practice because you're going to limit your clientele. And there's part of me that's like, yeah, I think that makes sense. But also at the same time, it wouldn't feel authentic to me if I'm not talking about my faith to these young athletes because of how much it did for me as a player. So it feels like an injustice for me to not talk about my testimony and my story and my faith to these athletes where I'm sure they're going through these mental and spiritual and emotional battles. And it's like, you just need a little bit of faith to get you through this. And right, that sounds so easy, but it's like, this is a skill, just like you were talking about being present. This is a skill that needs to be practiced. You know, you don't just wake up one day and have faith. It's something that is tried and tested. And like it says in the Bible, it's refined like gold and it's chipped away at your faith. And it's something that again, it just needs to be practiced. And I feel like I've had so much practice through sports to refine my faith. And you know, I have no idea where life's going to take me after this. And I'm sure there's going to be many other times where I'm tested in my faith. But I think having this foundation, as you're saying before, is like it just led me on a path to lean on him and continue to do those things.
No, that's great. And I mean, I think what you just said was very impactful, and I'm curious too about the people who would say that don't talk too much about your faith, because I think even from a mental performance standpoint, whether you're looking at health or you're looking at performance kind of a things, I mean, your identity is huge. Like where do you find your identity? I remember a story from my coach. He played in the MLB when I was in college, and he said he remembered a guy who made to the major leagues, had a great game, rookie, double, single, 2 for 4. And after the game, he was just sobbing at his locker. And he came up to him and was like, "Hey, are you okay?" He was like, "Is this it?
Hmm.
I've worked my entire life for this, and this is the feeling I get." And he was able to share Christ with them, and talk to him about identity. So, I think it's an interesting thing. Even when we talk to other people about it, is you have to understand where your identity is, and being a believer in Christ, your identity's in Christ. Being able to do it, it's really hard to do sometimes because you want your identity to be in baseball. Because I always think about this too with baseball players, and even like what you said about I didn't get drafted. That's a very public event. I mean, it's not, nationwide type of a thing, but people could look up and see, was JJ drafted or not? Did he go over 4 that game? Like, it's a very public thing. And for me at work, I'm not a public thing. It's not like my stats are posted every day of like, hey, this is what he got done today, or hey, this is, what he did. So there's a lot of empathy there for you as that public event. And then you're probably mentoring guys that have the same thing
Hmm.
where, you're having guys come in and be like, yeah, this is going to be a public thing. You can look up your stats. They're going to be available online. You're going to have a wiki page. Like all of those things where you have that empathy to be able to work through it with somebody that someone may not. So when you kind of going into your approach, I kind of want to hear your approach. Now that you've unpacked a lot of things in your, previous playing career, where you are now. So now looking forward, what's your now that you've learned this, being a mental performance coach young, and you graduated very, couple weeks ago. What is your approach? What's something that you're like, hey, I want to bring this to the world?
I mean, it's the identity aspect of it, and I think that's at the core of all of it. I think once we can tune that in and we can hone that in on your identity being beyond the scoreboard, beyond your stats, then I think there's work to progress where now we can introduce these psychological skills because now there's buy-in where it's like, this is going to help me perform better. But if I don't perform better, I'm still going to be okay. And I think the biggest revelation I had when I was playing is I worked with many sports psychologists, and I had this revelation that working with them wasn't making me play better, but it was making me feel better about the way that I was playing, which I thought was just as valuable in the grand scheme of things. And going back to what you were saying earlier, this analogy was always in my mind when I was playing. And I think it's kind of the perfect example of what you were just saying is in Finding Nemo, when Darla is in the dentist's office and they have the fish tank and she's walking up to the fish tank and she's, tapping on the glass and she's like, Fishy, wake up. As a player, that's what it feels like to be in between the lines. And the fans and the critics and the broadcasters, they're like, hey, like, get a hit a home run, win the game for us. And all they care about is what they see. And I think there's such a shift that needs to be happen in the fan player interaction where like you're seeing people like send Venmo requests for their parlays and, you know, threaten people's families. Like, these are human beings that are just playing a game. In the grand scheme of things, this is a game that is for entertainment and you're a fan and you're watching it. And now you're making it beyond a game. Just reinforces to the player that like, oh, this is me. Like these people hate me because I'm bad. Should I hate myself because I'm bad or because I'm playing bad? And it's just a cycle that happens all of the time. And it's very bad in professional sports, but I could track this all the way back to youth sports. And it starts with parents and coaches that are laying these expectations onto their kids from the very beginning of their careers, where they see some promise in their kid and now the parents starting to think about scholarships or professional baseball. They take them to these perfect game showcases and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars and they get like X rating out of 100 in the state. And I think parents can start to over identify with the success of their kid and lose that bigger picture. So I think the work that I want to do a lot of is changing the landscape of youth sports, or at least educating parents on the perspective of zooming out and recognizing this is a game for my kids to, one, stay active, two, make friends, and three, challenge themselves. And that's about it. But once you get to high school, yeah, you can start taking it a little bit more serious. But up until then, I see very, very little benefit of parents pushing their kids to take things so serious. And like I've said it on my social media, like I see it all of the time where parents are in the dugouts, you know, make sure you get your bat off your shoulders. I've spent all that money on your bat. You're not even swinging it. Like we're going to lessons every single week and you can't even hit the ball out of the infield. How's that making your kid feel? And to go a step further, what is that kid saying in their mind while they're playing? If you, somebody that they look up to and love more than anybody in the world, is saying these same things, as they grow and as they progress in their careers, their self talk is going to be exactly what you said in the car ride, before the game, and after the game. So I think the work that I want to focus on the most is just having that conversation of how do I properly bring up a youth athlete? And then beyond that is like, yeah, things are going so public now. Like there's the TikTok highlights, there's, game changer stats where you can go look at, and all of these things make you want to put your identity in the game. So like my new business is called Just a Game Consulting, and trying to look at your sport as objectively as possible, as in this is just a game and I am playing this game. But then on the flip side of it, looking at it as more than a game. Like it is just a game. I'm just playing baseball, but I can learn so much from playing baseball. I can learn about leadership. I can learn about toughness, resilience, being present, all of these things. So I see it as, let's not take it so serious because it's just a game, but also it's so much more than just a game because we're going to learn about all of these things that are going to help me in my actual life and in my actual character development. So yeah, that's where I want to go with this.
Sounds like you need to have a course for parents first.
I do.
Here's
I do.
how, if I'm going to coach your kid, here's your course that you're going to take. Because you hear that all the time of, and it's interesting. I think, you've got parents, just how they treat their kids. And yeah, as you said, just treat it as a game. Have you ever seen the movie Chariots of Fire?
No, but I want to say I've heard of that. And I think I know exactly what you're talking about, where one guy just shows up to the chariot race and the other guy is like taking it super serious.
Kind of, no. It's they're runners. They're not. It's a
Runners, okay.
They're runners. It's a great. I highly recommend you watching it. So it's two runners. You're close. You're close. It's two runners in the Olympics, and one and it's following just kind of a couple different runners, as they're going into the Olympics. But one guy's he's actually a missionary. Like, he's training to be a missionary, and so and I love this line. And so he's training to be a runner, but his sister's like, you should be a missionary. You should be going to do this. And the line is, he goes, God made me for a purpose, but he also made me fast.
Hmm.
And you get to see this contrast between his, like, and when even the music and everything, it's like he feels the presence of God when he runs, and it's just this
Hmm.
joyous thing. And then you have this other guy who's there, and he's like, I need to do it. I need to run. I need to do this. And not to give away the the end of the movie, but you see the other guy, kind of go off into missionary work, and the other guy's like lonely at a bar,
Hmm.
you know, with his gold medal. But I think it's a great analogy. I always think about that of, you can compete and have the joy of the Lord. You
Hmm.
can compete. You can be good at something and say, this is my expression to him. Everything is pointing back to God. Everything's pointing back to who he is and what he's doing. So, and as you said, you can learn all that, and you can be like, hey, where's God going to take me? He's going to take me to, playing high school ball at a good level. Awesome. Is he going to take me to playing college ball at a good level? Awesome. For me, I said, I'm going to play baseball till God tells me to stop. And I ended up being my wife my senior year of college. So that was like, okay, this is a good time to stop. Now, I wasn't good enough to go to the next level. So, I was like, hey, I know my limitations of this, but that was an important thing for me. So yes, I do think that, as you said, that identity first, because you need to have those building blocks along the way, because, baseball is a hard sport too. Like, it's not easy. You can go 0 for 4 and hit some bombs. Hit it on the screws 4 times and your stat card doesn't look great.
Right. So why should I judge myself based off of what my statistics say if most of the statistics are not even up to me in the first place? I think that's the biggest point that I try to hammer home, especially when it comes to batting average. This is how I try to explain it the most: is batting average is how many times they don't catch it when you hit it. It has nothing to do with how you hit it. It's simply, did they catch it or not? So now if I'm putting my opponents into my own stats, that makes no sense for me to be judging myself. And again, this is the cycle, like the fans and the critics and like all of these people, they want to judge you. You're a good player because you hit above 300. No, I hit it 30% of the time and they didn't catch it. That's all that happens. It could be a bunch of duck farts that they don't catch. That doesn't make me good. Like, what does make me good? It's just the way that I see myself. That's kind of how I view it. And almost separating myself from the judgment of even using the words good and bad. Like, what is good to me? What is bad to me? What's good to you? What's bad to you? And if I start wrapping myself up in this judgment, I can start to over-identify it, where a bad swing turns into a bad at bat, turns into a bad game, turns into a bad season, turns into a bad player, turns into a bad person. And like, it sounds kind of ridiculous, but that's kind of the process of it. And one thing you said in the Chariots of the Fire is the guy who was running that ended up not being fulfilled is, you said the word need so many times. I need to win. I need to run fast. I need to not mess up. And if I'm finding myself in a place of I need to get a hit, I need to make this shot, I need to make this putt, now I'm making this more than just a game. It's so much more than that. When I need to be objective and look at it like, this is just a putt, this is just a free throw, this is just an at bat. They all are independent of themselves. And when I start increasing the importance of one specific moment, that's when the pressure starts building.
I think you bring up, I love that because I think we can, now you're in a new world. Now you're in the business world,
Mhm.
which, you can do that too. I mean, I can do that to myself. I'm not doing that bad, but I'm like, oh, I didn't get this outcome that I was looking for. Oh, I didn't get this sale I was looking for. Oh, I didn't look. And for me, it's if I focus on the outcome, I get sad. But if I focus on the preparation, how did I do? Was I prepped? Was I ready? Did I show up correctly? Did I show up? It doesn't matter about the outcome. The outcome's the outcome. I did the best I could with what I'm given. We used to say that when I was at the group home working with the kids in the foster care system. There would be some times when I would have an outcome that'd be like I was a little agitated than I should have been. And one thing that what my wife and I talked about all the time was, show up with what you've got. Basically, I'm only. There's another phrase. What was the other phrase? It was anyway, but it was around the thing of David. David showed up with what he was given. I'm only showing up with what I'm given. Only what and he showed up with a slingshot and bam, and he defeated the giant. So even in that moment of failure, it was like, I'm only showing up with what I was given so far. And now I get to learn from it and then,
Mhm.
build something else on top of that. So it's almost like I mean, people always talk about looking at failures at a certain way, but it's like, okay, I failed, but I go, what can I learn from this? How can I build off of this? There's Rick Rubin wrote a book on creativity as well. And he talks about a musician as well, being able to go, this is just your expression for right now. This is just, in your journal, you're just putting it out there. You may look back on 10 years now and be like, man, that was awful. But no, that was just your expression about that, of who you were at that point. And so I think it's just that as you think of like that journey process of, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I be more objective about my failures? All right, I struck out 3 times. What can I learn from it? I swing at sliders in the dirt. Okay, how do I identify it? How do I prep for that next moment that I'm given? And so it takes kind of that identity out of it and more of a objective type of standpoint.
Yeah, I'm a big quote guy. So one quote I love using is, "There's no failing, there's only winning and learning." And I like it so much because when I say failing, I'm judging it based off of bad. I'm saying that outcome was bad. So now when I can replace failing with learning, I can start creeping into the good territory. I can reframe this into an opportunity to get something out of it rather than just saying fail bad, me bad. Let's reframe this into something. And I like the point you were making about David. And I think that's a theme that's woven throughout the entire Bible is these tax collectors, these sinners, these prostitutes, like they're all coming together under one person, one common theme of having faith in Jesus. And I think that's such a good reminder of just like, you don't need to be anything other than who you are right this second. David didn't need a single thing besides what he was carrying right in that moment. And that's why I think like faith and the mental game are so interconnected to me that it would be such an injustice for me to separate those two. And like as a player, that was another revelation that I made talking to other sports psychologists is like I understand what you're telling me and how you're trying to help me, but there's a piece that's missing and I can't quite put my finger on it. And once I was able to put my finger on it, that these guys aren't talking about faith at all. I think things started to click for me where it was like, one, there's a huge gap in this industry that I would love to fill, like from the business side of things. But two, these athletes aren't really getting the full picture if you're not even bringing in the spiritual aspect of it. Yeah, you want to coach the mental game. I see the mind and the spirit as being incredibly interconnected. And I almost think of like you think about like mindfulness and meditation and like self-awareness. These are all aspects of the self. And I almost view the self as the Holy Spirit. So I want to get closer to God. I need to be meditating with God. I need to understand my own thought processes and my own patterns and behaviors. And to me, that helps me get closer to God. But it's also helping my mental game, but it's also helping my spiritual game. And I see them both so interconnected.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, you can separate it, but it's doing, as you said, a disservice to the person. Yeah, I think even in neuroscience, I was talking to a neuroscience guy. We're having dinner the other night, and I was asking him about, the science of the consciousness. And it was like, how do you, as a neuroscientist, you want to separate science and faith? He doesn't. He doesn't, but like the industry as a whole. He was like, yeah, it's a disservice to the neuroscience industry. Is you have to say that self or that consciousness or whatever it's an intangible thing, and you have to address it. To not address it is it's like taking a part of something that's there, but be like, hey, we're just going to ignore that because I don't want to talk about it. And so you can bring up, this is how I handle this part of it, this consciousness that was. I need to have this identity in a creator. Okay, let's
Mhm.
talk about that. So I think you have to have that type of conversation with people, even though it may be a starting point of, hey, I don't know what I believe. I don't know what to believe, but they have to have some belief system. And
Mhm.
you go, okay, well, we actually at least have to talk about this.
Yeah, and I like to think, like, yes, I'm faith-based and my faith is in Jesus Christ, but I think every athlete has faith in something, whether it's a higher power, whether it's themselves, whether it's I don't really know what else there is out there, but they have faith in something, so let's draw on that. Let's see how this faith can be incorporated into your mental game, whether it's Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, atheism, like egocentrism, whatever it is, we can incorporate this somehow. If you make this all about me, myself, and I, which was actually the revelation that I made, like, okay, this was all about me and me improving my performance and my game. But I had to take a step back when I was like, this was never about me in the first place. So, yes, talking to sports psychologist is helping me, but it's not about me. I think that's where I saw that disconnect, and it kind of opened my eyes a little bit of like, yes, how can improving myself also improve other people? I think that's the direction that I want to go in the most is what can I do? What work can I do on myself, my mind, my consciousness, my spirit that can translate into serving other people, serving the team, serving the greater good, getting involved in charities, creating art and entertainment that is good for other people, consuming information that's good for me and my spirit so that I'm saying things that are aligned with the spirit.
You bring up going back to kind of the beginning, and we'll start kind of wrapping it up here because I think we could talk for a really long time about all of these types of things. But talking about like it was interesting talking about like social media. I think there's even in my life, it's you have this, you know, I grew up. I mean, I'm so glad I grew up in a place before social media in a way because you can look at highlights, you can see this, you're comparing yourself to this person, this person. I mean, like I compared myself to the Little League field. So I had a very small group, and then I'd go play like All Stars or something like that, and be like, "Oh, there's these other kids that are playing, and they're good too." Like I know it was just me and my thing, my little league, community type of a thing. But I think we talk about, or what I think about is like comparison too, because you can see somebody and appreciate them. You can see the same TikTok clip, same Instagram reel. You can appreciate. I'm like, wow, they're really good. Or you can go, wow, I need to compare myself to this person. I'm
Mhm.
not that good. And then it starts to bring you down. So in this world of social media, how would you tell a parent, kid to be excuse me, to be able to handle that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's a trap that I fell into a lot when I was in pro ball is you go on Instagram, you only see highlights. I'm only seeing Shohei Ohtani hit home runs. I'm not seeing the clips of him striking out. I'm not seeing the clips of him walking people on 4 straight pitches, which those 2 things aren't happening very often for that guy. But just in the grand scheme of baseball, like I wasn't seeing it. So it was putting this false sense of performance and success in my mind where it's like, okay, if I want to be in the MLB, I need to be hitting more home runs. They're hitting home runs all the time. I'm not hitting them that often. I need to change something about my game. And like another quote, like it's very well known is comparison's the thief of joy. It starts eating away at you where now I'm not content with who I am and where I'm at right this second. I want more. I need more. That word again is like needing. I need to be like this guy. So there's a hard balance. Yes, you don't want to compare yourself to other people, but you also want to be objective. Okay, what can I learn from these other people? What can I take from them and implement into my game that's also not rooted in jealousy or comparison? but then also taking a step back and comparing myself to who I was yesterday, comparing myself to who I was a year from now. And not in the sense of how I was doing it when I was in college, of like, okay, I used to be really good. Now I'm like kind of average. I want to be that guy again. No, just like look at the progress that I have made. Let's look at the growth. Let's look at the progress and using comparison as a tool rather than something that's going to put me down. So I think trying to reframe this social media as like, what's there to learn from these guys without comparing myself? And it's very hard. It's part of the flesh, and the Bible talks about it all the time. Is like comparing yourself. Like the hand doesn't do what the foot does. The arm doesn't do what the leg does. So why should I expect myself to be acting like another person and trying to be more authentic to myself?
Going back to the Otani thing, I mean, like if you compare yourself to Otani, you're gonna come up short.
Right.
So many different ways. And so I think it's building off that skill set of like, what do I bring to the table?
Hmm.
I think about that all the time with I should be better at this. I should be better at this. But like, no, no, no. What am I really good at?
Right.
There's the
Strength
book.
based focus.
Yeah, and like there's the book I just was picking up last night again. It's called Good to Great, and it talks about this hedgehog principle where it's like three different quadrants, and it's like and talk about business more, but I actually think about it as like a person as well because I like one of the things that it talks about. So it talks about like what are you passionate about, what can you make money at, and then what can you be best at the world at.
Hmm.
And like that's what makes a great company. And you stay there. And like he talked about all these different companies and like they knew what they could do and they just stayed in that moment. And I think about that for myself and like what we're building out too. It's like, what can I be best in the world at? And not as a egotistical thing, but more as a staying in my lane.
Hmm.
Because it could be a shiny object over here. Hey, you should focus on this. Or I should try this new thing or whatever it is. Like, no, no, no. Does it fit into what can we be best at the world at? And being able to be service to others and all those types of things. So yeah, so I think it's that comparison type of a thing. If you understand and can track, I think I was thinking of that too. If you can track your progress, because it's always hard to track progress. So journaling's great. Being able to see like, hey, I've gotten from here to here. All of those things I think help you stay and out of that comparison standpoint and be like, no, no,
Hmm.
I have gotten better. That I'm working towards that. You can work towards being Otani, but don't compare yourself to him. Like I want to throw 98, but I'm only throwing, 92 right now. I'm working towards that. How does he work on his mechanics to not like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be as good as him. I
I
think
think
that's
that
different.
I think the root of all of that is having a learner's mindset and like a beginner's mind, and looking for opportunities to grow, looking for opportunities to learn from other people. And I think that like combats all of the negativity, all of the jealousy, all of the comparison, where now it's about learning and not comparing. It's about growing and not judging. Again, like I don't want to be so far removed from the game where I oversimplify some of these concepts because I know how hard it is to put them into practice. But it's just something that it's a skill that needs to be cultivated. It's like looking and reframing opportunities to learn and to grow. I think that's the biggest thing.
I love that. I'll wrap it up with this story. I think I had a pitching coach who I'm hopefully going to be interviewing here in the next couple of days too. Coach Zinger. He's here in Phoenix, and he's a coach that coaches MLB guys. He's Scooble's coach, pitching coach. And so, but I remember I walked in. It was one of the first meetings we ever had doing CalmWaves with me and my dad. And I'm like, okay, like I got to present well. I got to do this, like all these different things. And he walks in and he goes, guys, I'm here to learn. Please fill my cup. I'm going, you're a pitching coach? Like you're a major league pitching coach? Like you have so much to give us. Like, what are you talking about that you want us to like fill that up? And I just remember that going, how of a, like, and that's just the person he is. And I'm like, I want to be that. I want to be that person who, when I walk into the room, doesn't matter who it is, going, hey guys, I just want to learn from you. Like, fill my cup. And so it was just such a cool moment of humility. And it was so genuine. There's nothing disingenuous about it. but it was so fun. So I think guys going back to that learner mindset. No matter
Mhm.
what you're doing, hey, I'm just learning today. I hit 4 home
And
runs yesterday. I'm still going to learn tomorrow.
and not being complacent with your 4 home runs and saying, "Okay, I've got everything figured out." But I think that's a wonderful story with that pitching coach. It's like he can't ask you to fill up his cup if his cup is already full. So you have to go into situations ahead of time and say, like, I'm willing to learn. My cup is completely empty. I have no preconceived notions of how I want this to go, what I want to hear. And like, that's something I read in the inner game of tennis too, is like, these people were going into their tennis lessons saying, like, I need to work on my backhand. And he would be like, okay, well, let's see. Your cup's already full. You think you need a new backhand? I'm the coach. Let's have an empty cup mindset and see what you need to work on ahead of time.
That's great. Love it. Well, thank you for your time. Where can people find you? Where if people are like, hey, I love what JJ's saying. Where can people find you?
I would say number one would be Instagram. My username right now is JJ Schwarz 22. I'm currently in a process of trying to get it changed, but I had a verified badge back when I played. So now I'm not able to change it. So that's where I'm at right now. The website, justaGameConsulting.com. I put a lot of work into it. It has a lot of my own personal philosophy and my story like woven into it. So I think people will get a lot of like a really good sense of who I am as a coach going through that. But there's also a contact page at the end of it where if you want to get in touch with me and try to work together and do some mentorship and one-on-one sessions, that would be the best place for it.
Awesome. Anything you want to end with? Send us off.
No, no, I appreciate getting the chance to talk about my journey, and it's something I'm getting used to because I always, when you play, like the interviews are, my teammates did such a good job. Oh, the coaches called such a good game, and like trying to make it so not about you. So this is a new space that I'm trying to learn is like not selling myself, but being more vulnerable about what I've learned and talking about myself in a way that feels authentic and not performative or rushed or whatever it might be. So I appreciate the opportunity to have a platform like this.
This is a great rep. You know,
Good rep. Yeah.
a good at bat.
Yeah.
Good
Yep.
at bat.
Good at bat. I was battling
Yeah, you're
off
battling.
pitches.
You're
My
like,
cup
hey,
was empty. I think that's the most important part.
yeah, that's great. Well, I love, man in the arena, you're doing it, you're out there. I think what I think you have such an opportunity to help so many people. Like, I mean this genuinely. You've had failures. You've been at the top of the top of the top. And you could have been like, why me? Victim mentality, all of those things. And you went, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take this and try to help the next generation. So you may be able to help a kid who does something that you may not have been able to do, which is make it to the major leagues. And how's that going to feel? But you're able to put yourself out there with your emotions, and by doing this and saying, "Hey, I failed in the world's eyes, but I'm going to succeed in life's eyes."
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I actually think the most unique part of my story is the fact that I did spend a lot of time in the why me victim mentality. And I realized like this isn't for me. This isn't benefiting anybody. This is hurting my marriage. This is hurting my relationships. So I think like even being in that type of mentality helped me learn as well. So I think it positions me in a really great spot to just continue to pour in other people. It's like, hey, these are lessons I learned. Like I want you to learn these the easy way. I had to learn them the hard way. I'll give you the answers to the test. At least some of them you can take them if you want or not.
I think that's a great way we learn anyway. We read Proverbs, we read David, we read all these people. And if David was just like, nope, I'm not going to write any of my story. I'm not going to give
Right.
any, like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do anything. We couldn't have learned from him.
Right. Pass
Solomon,
it on.
all of these people. So I think it's, your vulnerability will help a lot of people. And I mean that in a genuine way. So thank you,
Thank
JJ.
you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for, showing up on, having a newborn.
Mhm.
So thank you for at least, showing up here today. And I'm excited for you and your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate it.